hear Psalm 121 from a family member.
Psalm 121, a song of ascent. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot slip. God who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, God who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord watches over you. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord is going out, both now and forevermore.
And now we have remembrances from the family.
Thank you, everyone, for attending. Several weeks ago, Lee and I attended a comedy show, and there was an opening act as they normally do. The lead comedian, or the opening comedian, had a joke for us that I thought was very appropriate for this, a little bit humorous as well. So I'll share that with you, lighten this mood a little bit. So what she was talking about was families and how families are generally built in American families. And she said generally there is, in the family, there is one very kind, nurturing, loving parent, and then there's the other. and the father. Yes. My coach. She's a much better joke teller than I am. So my dad was a terrific dad. He, and we'll share a lot of this with you in a little bit, he brought so much to us and provided us so many opportunities that for me personally, and those who know who I was when I was growing up, would understand when I say that I would not be who I am, what I've done, I would have accomplished the things that I've done if it hadn't been for my dad providing me those opportunities when I was growing up. And he persevered through a very difficult time with me. Not so much for her.
He was there, but no difficult times.
For those that don't know, my dad and how he grew up in Northville, Michigan. And the stories he shared from us about Northville was a small town, it's still quite small, but it was growing, were filled with times running around the woods with his .22 rifle that he had, and he would trap muskrats and things like that. In the summertime, he would pick cherries from the cherry tree in his backyard, or plums in the neighbor's backyard. His grandfather lived across the street from him, and he had, for all intents and purposes, I think a very good young man's life. Went to school. He did very well in school, in high school, and he was off to go, as he graduated from high school, was set to go study physics and do whatever you do when you study physics. Well, the summer of 1953, he and two of his buddies took off and they drove around the country. This is before they were going to go to college. So the summer before they went to college. And on that trip, one of those events occurred that changed his entire life. That would be the car broke down. The car broke down in a little place called Valentine, Nebraska. And if you want to look at your phones, you can see it's still out in the middle of nowhere. So Valentine, Nebraska, they had no money left to fix the car, which had blown the engine. So they split off, and they all went to work at different places. And $1 a day or whatever they were making at the time was supposed to come together and rebuild the engine that they needed to rebuild, and then they proceed. Well, my dad got a job initially working on a road, building roads out there at the time. And while he was working on this road, a rancher, who, by the way, they're always looking for ranch hands, good, hard-working people, because it's very hard to get good people who stay around there, came by, and his trick was, as I was told, he would look at people and see who's a hard worker, and he saw my dad, and he offered my dad a job. So my dad went to work on this ranch in Dopeway, Nebraska, the Andrews Ranch. And that really was one of those points where his life turned. He didn't go to college. End of the summer comes around, my grandmother finds out where he is. She comes down there and says, "You're coming back with me and you're going to school." And he says, "Oh no, I'm not." So he stayed there for a year and he worked. Missed his opportunity to go to college. And he told me many stories about his time on the ranch, and the ranch life, and working the cattle, and what it was to be a cowboy. So for years, it was something that I kind of aspired to myself. When he finished his time on the ranch after a year, he then joined the Coast Guard. And he sailed around the South Pacific for about 3.5 years. Now, another kind of a dream job for a young guy, right? Sailing around in the South Pacific, chasing little Polynesian girls and all that young guys would do in the South Pacific. And some of those pictures that you've seen here are included there from that time there. And he had an opportunity during that time to join the Air Force and become a pilot in the pilot training program, which he did. And that took him through pilot training, and where he eventually met my mom and married my mom in Charleston, South Carolina. Well, I'll breeze through the rest of this because I think most of you have heard all that part of it. But we lived in Charleston until I was about 8, 7, 8, yeah, about there. Robin had just come along. She was probably 4. Yeah, okay. And then we moved to San Antonio, Texas, where my dad continued to fly in the Air Force. Really enjoyed our time there in San Antonio, met some wonderful people, had great neighbors, some are here now. Then off to the Philippines, and you've seen some pictures of the Philippines. For me, as a 10-year-old going to the Philippines, that was really cool because I could do all kind of things, run around the jungle and, you know, all the kind of things that boys want to do. But we also had a lot of good times there. Really enjoyed ourselves. From there, we moved back to the States in 1977, and we took a road trip across the country. We landed in San Francisco. My dad's friend, Uncle Whit, bought us a car. It was a 1971 LTD 4-door, and the trunk was as big as a walk-in closet. So we traveled across the country in that car, and it was miserable. For me anyhow, I'm sure for Robin as well. My dad would, we had this cool thing at the time in this car installed. It was brand new AM/FM radio with a CD, 40-channel CD, if you guys remember those things, with an automatic antenna that would go up and down, which, by the way, only lasted 1 year because it froze and broke. But so we traveled across the country listening to the CB radio, and all these country songs. FM radios, remember that? You go about 40 miles and then you have to change station. Well, we always get to the same type stations, country stations, 114, and this went on for a month. And my dad loved to sing those songs. So we heard these songs over and over and over again every day.
Slip sliding away.
Slip Sliding Away, yeah, Paul Simon's song came out that summer. Slip Sliding Away, Slip Sliding Away, Slip Sliding. My dad had a way of,
Sing it all together.
yeah, the first few times, yeah. Yeah. We'd sit in that car, and oh, by the way, it had one speaker in the front dash, not like we do now. Then we ended up in Delaware. And Delaware, we were in high school, my dad started building houses there for us. We built our first house in Delaware, and he taught me these things as it was going on, so we shared those experiences. Then, well, yeah, but I wasn't where we were after that, yeah, so. We were there, but not really, not to do it. And then we moved to New Jersey, where we built another house, and he put me to work building that house, you know, from foundation on up. And then I went in the Army, and my mom and dad moved to Missouri, then down here, saved my sister from herself. Yeah. Okay. So I've got a little bit more I want to talk about this, but I'm going to go ahead and let Robin talk about her experiences.
All right, thank you, Brad. Thank you. All right, thank you all for coming, first of all. And most of you may have known my dad as Harvey or Arvy or Russ. He went by many different names, but he was a pilot, a military man, and someone with an incredible ability to fix or build anything. To us, my mother, my brother, and I, he was also a man with unforgettable sayings, a larger-than-life personality with traditions and quirks that made him very uniquely ours. I have some examples. If you were my brother and me, you would definitely woken on cold school mornings on my dad announcing over the intercom system, because their bedroom was downstairs, ours was upstairs, he could not be bothered to be walking upstairs. Ooly, 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 get up and go to schoolie. Pretty bad. My mother would come up if she were there. She would rub her back and wake us gently. Not my father, no. And often, when he'd return from trips, this was a good one too, he would announce his arrival home by saying, "Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he dead or be he alive, I'll crush his bones to make my rep." That was terrifying for a little girl. I would scream and try to hide and run around and try to get away from him. He would just grab us and toss us around. It was just funny. Another memory was on Sunday mornings. You remember the colored comics and everything? We'd all pile in the bed together, and my mom and dad would read the comics to us. And after that was done, we would hear this rum, 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 rum sound. Rum, rum, rum. Oh my God, it's Steamroller! We would try to get out of bed as quickly as possible, but he would start steamrolling over us in the bed, suffocating us and everything. It's just things like that, right? Yeah, these are very simple memories, but those memories captured who he was. You know, someone who truly appreciated humor, joy, and family. Daddy also had nicknames for everyone he loved. That was his way of making people feel special and part of the family and his circle. But his nicknames were not very flattering. My mother's nickname was Wench, in a loving way. Hey, Wench, Wench, whatever. Mine was, it got shortened to Doobird, but originally it was Doo-Doo Machine. You can use your imagination for that one too. My dad had an amazing work ethic, as Rhett mentioned too. He believed in working hard, doing things right, and figuring out things for yourself. And he was always there when I needed him. If I needed anything fixed in my house or anything like that, I just called my dad and he was there for me. There was nothing he couldn't do, repair, or fix or anything, whether it was building the houses we built, or fixing airplanes, or making me my born-free Rocky horse, or Logan's Rocky airplane, or maybe Brandon's Mission Impossible Science Olympiad project. He was up for it. My daddy could do it. He also shaped me very personally in many ways that were probably ahead of his time. He empowered and respected women. For example, my mother was always the general contractor for the houses that we built. Remember, he was gone half the time. He was flying every 2 weeks out of the month. So my mom was the contractor. She had to deal with all the people and making the phone calls and the workers and everything like that. For me personally, he taught me to be capable, independent, and confident. Women's work was not in the kitchen. It was outside, driving the backhoe, laying down the sod, hammering down the floorboards, putting the electrical wiring in the houses or something like that. We really did do it all. And he taught us a lot through that too. But one of his famous lines to me was, "You can do anything any man can do, except write your name in the snow." That's my daddy, equal parts humor and wisdom. He was also very adventurous in every sense of the word. He loved riding horses, sailing, sailboating, skiing, snorkeling, scuba diving, fishing, and just general exploring. As Rhett mentioned, as we drove across country, we went off the road quite a few times. We would go see a rodeo here, or we would go to the Badlands, or maybe go explore a cave or something like this. We really did get to see this country of ours when we traveled across it. But at heart, he was really a cowboy, right? He loved the outdoors, the freedom, and animals of every kind too. But yes, he was also definitely a military dad, you know. And our family, 5 minutes early is on time, all right? Being late is disrespectful, and Matt probably remembers this too. If your clothes drawers were messy, all jumbled up and everything, while we were at school, he would take them out and dump them on the floor. And we would have to come home and fix them all and make them all look beautiful and nice again. So those lessons taught us responsibility and pride in ourselves too. Most of all, we know how deeply he loved our mother. 63 years of it together in a storied life and love story. Everything Daddy built, every venture, every move, every project, every dream was built around family and her. And while today we recognize today's about recognizing my dad, remembering my dad, I also want to recognize those that he loved who passed before him, family members and friends who were also an important part of his life. His brother, Uncle Bill, his best childhood friend from Michigan, Uncle Phil, the Andrews from the cattle ranch that he worked on for a year in Nebraska, Uncle Bubba, my mom's very, very sweet brother, Aunt Julia, my godmother, she's absolutely beautiful, and Dr. Renee Morrell, the fast friends from San Antonio, they were neighbors next to us, and we used to go eat over there very often. Bill Anderson, a longtime lake friends from New Jersey, Ron and Marietta Wolf, they were best friends from the Philippines. We will miss his voice, his stories, his humor, his presence more than words can say. But we were so lucky to have him for 90 years. Daddy, I want to say thank you for everything. I had an amazing childhood because of him and my mom. And we love you and we'll always carry you with us. Thank you guys for listening. Anything else you want to say, Red?
So, things I want to bring out about my dad. He loved to fly, and he shared that with me. He taught me how to fly, and in fact, I was flying his airplane when I was 7 years old. He loved the science of building houses. He loved the science of flying airplanes, particularly. You know.
He designed the houses too.
Yeah, he designed. He
He
designed all the houses. The thing that he instilled on me on these things is that I could do anything I wanted to do, and I still carry that today. When somebody tells me, "Oh, you can't do that," that's a challenge because I know I can. My dad told me I could. And if he was the kind of dad that if there was ever a question, as Robin mentioned, if I had a problem working on a car engine or my boat engine or working on our house, I would call him up and say, "Hey, Dad, what do you think about this?" And, "Oh, yeah, could be that." Yeah. And he would generally steer me in the right direction. He's also the guy that very frustrating, and I'm sure this happens to a lot of sons, or maybe daughters too, that when I had a problem with something and I was working on it, struggling with it, he would come along and say, whoop, whoop, you know, tweak, and there it'd be fixed. Very frustrating. But in the end, it worked out. I've lived in Virginia. We've lived there for the last 21 years. And my wife and I, we owned a business until recently. Yeah, but about 5 years ago, knowing that my father had this illness that he had, this dementia, we knew it was coming. I tried to, and I still today, try to call my mom, and at the time there, my dad, every day I try to call him. So my dad, initially, you know, about 5 years ago, we started doing this. About 5 years now? I've been calling you every day? Yeah. Initially, I carried on a conversation with him, and everything was fine, and, you know, nothing happened in here kind of stuff. We had good conversations, and we talked about when we're going to get together again, what was happening here, what mom was doing, and all that. And then it started to become, I'm talking to mom a lot more. Not so much my dad. But when I did get a chance to talk to him, our conversations would go in a circle. So we'd talk about for 15 or 20 minutes about something, and then he'd ask me the same question we started with. And when that happened, it was kind of like a shock. Because my dad had always been dialed in, very tight about everything. He was on the mark every time. So, you know, that was the first indication to me that he was slipping. So this went on for a few years, but it was still, we could still carry on a decent conversation. And then it started getting, the circle started getting smaller. That time window would get less, and we had the same conversation over sometimes 3 times in the same phone call. And then it was my mom. And then it was me. I said, hey, I need to get down there more to see my dad because it's getting closer. And the first time that I came in and it was obvious he didn't recognize me, was he knew who I was once my mom told him, but he didn't recognize me right off the bat. That was a challenge. But again, my dad was always very tight. He was dialed in, just like his airplane, the ILS, when he's making an ILS landing on his airplane, that's precision landing. It's a terrible disease that he had. And to see somebody that was so big, so full of life, go down because of that was very horrible, frankly, and I hope it never happens to anybody, but of course it will. So he is undoubtedly now at peace. He is back to the man that we remember. And he will always be remembered by us for the wonderful person he was, is. And we look forward to seeing him again in the future. Thank you for coming. I think we've got we're going to finish up, and then we'll go out to people. Thank you.
and prayers for our country?
The response is, we give you thanks, O God.
Let us pray for our country and those who have served. May we give thanks to God and to the land where we live and all its liberties, and for the wonder of our country's story from 1776.
We give you thanks, O God.
For the leaders of our nation, state, and local community, and for those in days past and these present times have labored for the Commonwealth.
We give you thanks, O God.
For those in all times and places that have been true and brave, and in the world's common ways have lived upright lives and supported their fellow human beings.
We give you thanks, O God.
And for those who serve our country in its hour of need, including the veterans who live in our beautiful town.
The Lord be with you. And also with you. Please join me if you know this prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Rest eternal grant to Harvey, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon him. May his soul and the souls of all the departed, through the mercy of God, rest in peace. And the peace of the Lord be always with you. Please give each other a sign of God's peace, and then I will have Philip speak to us. Thank you, Philip. Peace.
Ladies and gentlemen, this will conclude our services here within the chapel. In just a little while, we're going to be making our way over to South Florida National Cemetery, where we will have military honors take place. Now, the services over there are scheduled to begin at 1 o'clock. However, with anything and everything military, we have to hurry up and get there and wait. So we are expected to be there by 12:45, which means we'll leave here between 12:35 and 12:40 to make our way over to the cemetery. Now, when we get ready to leave here, we are not doing a formal procession per se. However, you are more than welcome to follow us over.